Welcome to Dr. Ed Show. I'm Dr. Edmund Sulkowski. We have a wonderful show for you today. I want to remind everybody that you can hear me live every Saturday morning on AM 1250 The Answer. That's AM 1250 or FM 92.5. And a number of guests that have been on this TV show or also have been on the radio shows. And they're archived on Rumble, that's rumble.com, Dr. Ed Show, on YouTube, on Spotify, and there's a few other ones out there. And you know, you can always see this on ptct7.com and YouTube and Vimeo, and also we can see this on on Xfinity and Verizon stations. You know, we talk all the time, at least I know I do. I talk 8 hours a day and sometimes 12 hours a day. And I always try to think about what I'm going to say, but sometimes words just come out. And our guest today is Amanda Yetter. Welcome, Amanda. Amanda's been on my radio show. It's a fascinating radio show. Amanda is a life coach. Everybody calls her Coach Mandy. And she is also author of this book, Words Matter Today. I don't know if you could focus in on that, and then we're going to talk about that one a little as the show goes on. But we're going to talk about words in general. Amanda also goes around and lectures, and we're talking about giving information on really how to take a thought process into a word, or is it a word into a thought process?
Well, thank you for having me here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It's a little bit of both, right? A little bit of our words can be a reflection of our thoughts, and words can also influence our thoughts.
And do these words become action, or these thoughts become action as a result?
Yes. So generally the way our thoughts work, we think and then we feel from that. And then we either take an action or don't take an action, and then our results can be an exact match to what our original thoughts were.
So it's an interesting title, Words Matter. Is that why they matter?
Oh, I think they matter for your results, of course, right? Because in the business that I do, what I am doing is helping people achieve their goals or their results that they're looking for in their life by identifying those patterns that drive the thoughts, how they feel, and their actions. I think they matter not only for that, though, but also how it affects those around us as well.
So it's an interesting thing. You can take a word, and we know them as nouns, pronouns, adjectives, whatever title you want to give them, assign to them. But one word can mean one thing to one person and another thing to another person. Is that where their issues can develop?
I mean, I think that yes, they can, because words can mean something to you. So let's take the word excited, and that can mean different things to different people, right? It sounds like, oh, okay, I'm happy and I'm energized. But it also can be an indication of a lack of deserving, right? Because you get that energy of like, is this really going to happen? And so that can be an indication of lack of deserving. But for most people, it means I'm excited and I'm happy and I'm really looking forward to this.
So what prompted you to sit down? Because I know, I've been asked over the years to sit down and write a book, and I've written many articles, that have been published in different periodicals and so forth over the years. But to sit down and actually compile a book that's going to be, 300 pages or 200 pages. What prompted you to do that?
So truthfully, I had a dream. So in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., I had a title and an image that came up, and that was like, okay, I need to do this. Prior to that, many of my clients that I work with would say, this is one of the things that helped me when we changed this word or we changed that word. Can I get a list from you? So there was prompting from my clients who were like, I would like a list that I can work off of, because I found it so helpful and it shifted the way I felt about things. It helped me take actions that maybe I normally wouldn't take. And then I enjoyed whatever those results were. So there was like prompting along the way from my clients for sure. And then ultimately there was a dream with a clear vision. So, I don't have my phone on at night, but I did pick up my phone and put notes in it on what the chapters would be and those things. And it came, the actual generation of it came from working with my clients, and then.
And that's working with with your clients as a life coach?
Yes.
And so what exactly is a life coach?
Well, life coach and in business, both. What we use with our customers, those kind of things, so both. Exactly as a life coach is almost what you want it to be. There can be, there's all different kinds of life coaches, and we all generally support each other, that we may have expertise in different areas. But it's all about how do we support you. So most of us don't think twice about having a coach, maybe even a private coach for sports or athletics, and we do that. But for our own life, we're kind of navigating on our own, or maybe influence of what we learned from our parents or our siblings or friends. So a coach is really the same as it is with any coach. It's just coaching on a different topic.
There's training involved in this, and there's certifications and so forth. You just don't say, hey, today I decided I'm a life coach, and
Hey, you can.
you can do that, but that's not what you did.
Right. I did go through training at the Brave Thinking Institute. I still go through training constantly. I actually have several coaches and classes that I take on how to do coaching and how to help people.
So you have clients that are having issues in their life, and then you just sit down and talk and sort through those?
Yeah, it's about understanding where they are today. And sometimes that will include what led to where they are today. And then we look at where would you like this to be? And then what do you really want, right?
So that's really interesting. You're saying you have to look at the end result before you begin to achieve it.
Yeah.
Now, I know I love music, and I compose from time to time, and I always hear it before I ever sit down to play it. And then I do some oil painting. I haven't for a while, but maybe we'll get back to that too. But if I need a 30-hour day or a 40-hour day, I think, anymore. But I would see the painting finished before I ever picked up a brush and sat at that easel.
Yes.
And is that important to be able to do that?
Well, I think that's the same analogy I have for the book. I saw the cover and I saw the chapters before I actually did it. I mean, if you think about building a house, you have a blueprint before you start putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about, and for the life coaching, what I found to be really helpful is the feeling into that. So I'm imagining it, and I'm using my imagination to dream what that would look like, what I really want, and then adding some feelings to that and feeling really positive energy about that.
So you're not necessarily telling a client what to do, you're basically telling them how to work through their thought process.
Yeah, like a tool belt.
Tool belt. And you're using words to do that.
Yeah, so words can be a thread that we notice patterns, and then we shift those patterns, and that helps begin to shift the thoughts and open ourselves up to more feeling.
A pattern being I get up every morning and went, oh boy, I got to go to work today. That's not a good pattern.
That's a pattern.
But it becomes a pattern that you do every day.
Yeah.
But if you wake up in the morning, you go, oh, it's going to be exciting today. I'm going to meet these people. We're going to help them, or we're going to, sew a button on their blouse or whatever.
Right.
Having that positive thought is another pattern, but a good pattern.
Right.
So how do you get from that, oh boy, it's Monday morning, I got to go to work, till it's, hey, it's Monday morning, let's get off to work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways. Many of us sort of do the more of I'm going to make myself be positive, right? So affirmations can be really good, and repeating them as patterns can be excellent. We'd even look at those words, right, and say, okay, so if I'm using words that is make it a great day, it's very positive, but there's also a tone of making it a great day, a force and an extra pressure that can be on there. So it does lift us up in a positive pattern, but there's even more options in that of using choice words, right? Like, I'd love for this to be a great day today. I'd love to meet all those people that I'm going to interact with, and here's one great thing that I imagine is going to happen today. Feels lighter. Same concept, but the words can feel a little bit lighter depending on what you're choosing. So it's even interesting that when we are saying positive words, sometimes there's even a pattern of stress or pressure in it.
So you get up in the morning and you got a full day ahead of you, and there's going to be a little anxiety, there's going to be a little anguish, there's going to be little bumps in the road. I mean, we have those every single day.
Right.
Driving down on a road and having somebody pull out in front of you, or get on that cell phone and stay at a red light when it's green. You know, we see that every day. How do we deal with that?
So the first thing is, the first word that you said was, so you know this is going to happen because it happens all the time. What if I just remove that?
Say it's not going to happen.
Today's a new day, right? It's going to be an easy drive in, and there's, you know, I'm going to see flowers on the road, or I'm going to, you know.
Well, you know,
See
I'm going to tell you, I know it works because every time I go to find a place to park, I say I'm going to find a place to park right outside the front of that door, and I do 99% of the time.
There you go. But if you know that every day you're going to run into traffic and someone's going to pull out in front of you, then you're going to feel like that's what's going to be happening. You're actually going to be looking for it, right? So your actions are starting to be driven that you're looking for what you thought was going to happen. It really reinforces that you were correct, right? And the result is you'll find somebody to pull out in front of you, or at least think that that's what they did.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting how our mind works.
So in your book, Words Matter Today, 57 Ways to Grow Confidence and Transform Experiences. So how do you grow confidence with words?
Yeah. So there's several things that we look for when, you know, when I'm working with a client. I'm looking for, I can't do that, or I don't want, you know, I don't want to be alone is a great example. I don't want to be alone. So let's shift that and let's talk about what you do want, right? And then identify.
How do you know what you want?
Well, you might not know. So it's imagination. So when we're kids, we don't really know what we want to do when we grow up, but it's so easy.
I'm still figuring that out.
It's so easy. But so one difference is so easy for a 4-year-old to put on a fireman's outfit or a doctor's outfit. And for us to do that today and imagine ourselves with a fireman cap on or a doctor's suit, we don't let ourselves go there. At some point that shifts for us, right? Maybe we're afraid of judgment. Maybe we didn't believe we could do that. I'm not smart enough to be a doctor, right? Like those things may have held us back, and then we stop using our imagination in that way. Instead, we use it maybe to terrorize ourselves, right? Like, I'm not going to have money. She's going to leave me.
Is this like I think I can, and then suddenly I know I can?
Yeah.
But right. How do you really get from that I think I can to I know I can?
So it is connecting how I'm thinking with my feelings, right? That's a natural thing for our thoughts to connect with the feeling. But the more I say I think I can, and the more I take an action towards that, and the more I see myself doing that, the better and better and better I feel, right? And if you watch I think there's an Easter movie that does that, right? There's like a little train that goes, I think I can, I think I can. You can almost see how he's visualizing as he goes up each track, and he's taking an action for the next track. He may not know that he can go all the way to the top, but he knows he can do the next one and the next one.
So your thoughts and your words, regardless of which comes first, ends up with the reaction. So if you sit there and you're trying something new, and you say, I don't think I could do that, you're not going to be able to do it.
You will not.
And if you sit there and say, I can, you possibly will.
Right. Or I'm willing to try. Right. So that's where we get the I'm willing to take an action towards it.
So in this beginning of the book, you have a picture, I think it's you.
It is me.
With a little beanie cap on. And you're a bunch of
My great-grandmother made that.
Yeah, is that right? With a bunch of little chickens.
Little ducks. They're
little ducks, yeah. Okay.
It's hard to tell in that picture, but yeah.
And tell us that story, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm. So my mom's family was a farmer, and that's where we started our first home. My dad was a construction worker, and they were really, it was a lot of freedom on the farm. It was a large farm, and so we could go out in the yard and be with the animals, and my mom was very in tune to helping us learn from the animals, right? So the ducks were newly hatched. They hadn't eaten before or, done any of that. So it was all about, it can be stressful when they don't eat, right? Because they're not doing what you think they want to do. And I think I probably had a little angst, not that I remember 100%, but I had a little angst about they're not doing what they need to do. And so that's when my mom taught me to calm think calm thoughts, talk kindly to them, and you'll feel kind and positive, and then the ducks will feel that way too.
Because they're picking
they'll
up
relax.
your energy and your thoughts.
Yep.
So
And they feel it, right? So they hear the kind words, they feel it, they get relaxed, and now it's not as stressful to try this new thing of eating. It becomes something, okay, let's see what happens.
were you about 5 years old in that picture?
Yeah, probably 4 or 5, yeah.
Did you sense that at that time?
Yes. So the ducks, you could feel them tighten up. You could feel their muscles tighten up, and they're kind of, and then they're squishing. But after kind of calming down and doing what my mom had suggested I do, once I had done that, the ducks started to relax. They ate, and of course they all just fell asleep.
So your mom was pretty in tune to this.
Yes.
Being raised on a farm and working with animals,
Right.
and knowing that we are all energy. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
And you can send those thoughts. So I'm going to tell you an interesting story. I don't think I told you before.
Oh, okay.
So I hiked a mountain probably every day that I lived in Arizona. I was actually just out in Arizona, got to hike my mountain. And you see wild animals all the time, everything from rattlesnakes. When I was there this last time, mule deer. All the years I lived there, I never saw a mule deer on that mountain. Got to see them. So one of the things you see all the time are lizards. And there's different varieties, larger ones, smaller ones, little geckos, whatever. And they are the most jittery animals. The minute they see something, they dart and they hide. So you can't get anywhere near them. One day I was hiking, and this mountain is a non-loop, so you have to track, and it's 2 mountain peaks, and it's really a nice.
I'm going to give you
hike.
a lot of credit for doing that.
No, I love it. So I'm coming back, and on a rock, maybe 25 feet from me, is a little lizard about this big. Well, with its tail maybe that big. And he sees me, and I know he's ready to dart. And I stop, and I start talking, using words and sending thoughts. And my voice was calming, and I started to say, you're a beautiful animal. Don't run. I'm not going to hurt you. This is your home. I'm visiting. If anybody was around me, they'd have got the straight jackets. But
it's not a common conversation with the lizard.
I'm having a conversation with this wild lizard over here. And I'm really having a good time because the lizard is not darting. And then I start to see this lizard go like this, like a dog who's trying to understand what you're saying, and going like this. And we're about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, this lizard begins to move, and he walks down the rock, on the ground, across the trail, up a rock, and I'm telling you, he's a good 25 feet, up onto a bush, and I can go like this to the top of its head. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is a wild, stupid animal, all right, who picked up that I wasn't a threat, and I think we were talking. So is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Now, I've never in my life seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Where a creature like that walked and came to me.
Right. And it started with you.
I've had a few of them. Now, I've had a few experiences like that, but that's I think the most astonishing one.
Wow, what amazing.
Yeah, and it kind of supports, I think, what you said in the book.
Yes.
With the energy and the thought and the positive thought process.
Right.
Have you heard any of other experiences like that?
So I experienced them often on the farm because we worked a lot with the animals. So I would say yes, not quite that. That's a pretty impressive. I'm going to keep that one. That's pretty impressive. I'm curious, when you said this stupid animal, did he run away then?
No, I'm not. I didn't say that to the lizard. I'm just saying people people think that animals are stupid, and they're not.
Yeah. But I was just curious if you had,
No,
you know.
no, I've never ever thought of an animal. I have some animal connection. I gotta tell you, I've never ever thought of an animal.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another story while we're talking about
Yeah.
it. So,
A lot of people too, right? You can see it with kids or people, and some of it's defense mechanism, right? That lizard's used to how everyone feels when they see a lizard, so he's used to running away. So to experience something new is great. It's a wonderful experience.
I walked past rattlesnakes. They were 2 feet away from me, and they were just sunning themselves. You don't bother them; they don't bother you.
Right.
If they think they're threatened, that's a whole other story.
Right.
But you know, we definitely don't understand animals unless you've been around them. And fortunately, I had parents.
Right.
We didn't live on a farm, but my parents always had birds, fish, dogs, cats. You name it, we had it. And I grew up with animals.
Yeah.
So you develop relationships with them. I mean, people. I don't know if you have dogs. I know.
I do.
Yeah. Well,
Yes. You know,
yeah.
my sister has a few dogs.
Yeah. So you develop this bond with these animals.
Yes.
But when you have this experience in the wild,
Right.
and I've had that with geese. I mean, it's just incredible. These animals that you think don't have a brain, probably more intelligent than we are.
Right. That's right.
Because I think they're tuned into the energy, and we deny the energy.
Yeah. And one of the most incredible ones that I've seen, but you can do this with dogs too. Horses are really very sensitive to it. So you can actually, if you put your hand on a horse and you change your thoughts or your words, you can feel their muscles and their energy change. That for me has been probably one of the most incredible experiences, is just to know that, right, and to feel that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So how do we apply what we just talked about to relationships with people?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar, right? So our thoughts, what we might be thinking about somebody, there's no way to know if those are actually true or not, just like you can't really know what the lizard's thinking, right? So as much as we don't know about the animals, we don't know that about people either, but our thoughts will start to go that direction, and then our words follow it, or we hear words and we hear something that they say and we react to that, and it's a continuing cycle, right? So I think the first thing is really more awareness to what am I thinking and what am I feeling, and pausing in that moment. And for me, I start to look at, we talk all the time, harder to see the talk as it comes out. Text, emails, those kind of things, you can see right away, what's the tone in my text? Am I using a lot of can't, don't, make, force words, those kind of things, and then switching those and seeing how that changes things.
Texting is tough. I don't like it myself. I like it. I like it because it saves me time.
Right.
But I'm not a storyteller when I text. If I can say okay with a K, that's what I do.
Or thumbs up.
Or thumbs up. That's enough said as far as
Yes.
I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And you get texts from some people, and you can write a book from it.
You can.
You
Yeah.
know. But I guess there's yelling through text if it's all capitalized, or
Could be.
or whatever exclamation mark you use could mean something. I don't know.
Or it could mean happiness.
It's to me, texting is so impersonal.
It is. Yeah.
But it has a purpose to save a little time, or
Right.
But I don't think that's a great communication source.
I use it to see more what I'm saying as well. I mean, I use texting, but I also look at how those texts are coming through in the words, and that does help me have some insight. What's the pattern in those words, and how can we shift it? So it's been a tool in that way, just like emails would be as well. I find it helpful that way. It does remove the personal part. You can't hear the tone. You can't see the face. You can't,
And tone is important.
It's
important.
important.
Tell us what tone means.
Yeah, I think tone, the structure of your voice, right, which is sort of an action. So it's an action coming out of those words, how I choose my body language, my tone that I use. And that's because probably have a thought, and maybe that's an anger thought. And there's probably words that are associated with that being anger. And then my tone is going to be angry, or my body language might be angry. But it's all starting with, what did I think of first? And the word probably came either in in our mind or out of our mouth before the tone and the body action, right? Because that's happening before it's actually coming out.
Yeah.
And we have a chance to interrupt it.
How?
You know? I think just by being aware of the words, right, and having those patterns. So sometimes they're just coming out common because that's what I say every day.
So like, yes, I'm happy, or yeah, I'm happy. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. There's some tone to that, right?
There's some tone.
Yes, I'm happy. I know I'm happy. So are you? Do you feel happy in that is probably even more important than the tone, right? And you're giving a sense of feeling when you go, yes, I'm happy.
I started out every day of my life happy.
Good.
You know how I do that?
How do you do that?
I listen to music when I first wake up. I don't turn on the boob tube. I turn on the radio. I listen to music and listen to something that makes me happy. And that's how I start my day out.
That's great.
So, I don't know.
That's a great way. I start mine out with meditation.
And meditation is good because it gets you into your own thought.
It does.
Gets you into your own head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are some I listen to, so it's an analogy to a song. It has some music in the background, and I may like the person's voice or the words, or for me, it's been really lately more about how it helps me visualize my day.
Yeah.
So getting in tune with being able to imagine and dream what my day might be. Look, actually, that takes some work for some of us.
So the words that apply would be make your day, right?
Well, it would be create your day.
You create your day. We're at our first break, Amanda. We're here with Amanda Yetter, and her book is Words Matter Today. Where do we get this book?
Yeah, so it is available on Amazon. So you can search for that on Amazon. You can also go to wordsmattertoday.com.
And those websites come up, so people will be able to see that. When we come back, we're going to dwell a little more into how we do create our own day. We'll be back with Amanda Yetter on Dr. Ed Show. Welcome back to the Dr. Ed Show. I'm Dr. Edmund Sulkowski, and we're here with Amanda Yetter. Amanda is an author, and she's a life coach, and she wrote this wonderful book. And in this book, you talk about words, because words matter. Words matter, and how we say the words matter as well.
Yes.
You know, sometimes I think, Amanda, we make judgments, and we put, I don't know, do you want to call them labels? Is that, I think that's your
labels
term, labels.
yeah.
So what is a label that we put on things?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a compilation of reasons why we might use a label, but some of it is to organize our thoughts and make a decision about what we believe about someone or something. And it can be good, and even with good intentions, can also create either limiting beliefs from ourselves. It's a pattern, right, of limiting beliefs of what let's say we're labeling ourselves, where we could be limiting what we believe we could do. We could be labeling our children and be limiting what they believe they can do because they hear that repetitively.
So why would we do such a thing? Why would we place a label?
But I think it's a habit. I think it's a habit of organizing the way we think about things and the way that we do talk about things. So it's a way to organize how we're going to approach things, how we feel about it. Maybe we're trying to be helpful with the label, but even a positive label of like, I think my son is a wonderful athlete, for example, can create a situation where the son is always living up to that. What if the son doesn't really care to be an athlete, but
isn't that good?
Or maybe isn't that good.
Yeah.
So you have that, like, it can be intended to be positive, but even with the intention of positive, labels can really, how much you use them and how much power you put behind them and in your decision about that label, that's the way it is really important to think about and look at. How am I doing that?
So a label would be, you're stupid.
Yes.
Okay, so you can do that to a child because the child's not doing what you want them to do.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so you internalize it and come up with that thought process and say, hey, you're stupid.
Right.
Then the child lives up to that word?
Yeah, well, and that actually is a situation that I experienced as a child, so I can talk to that really well. So I don't think that the person who said it meant it as a label. It just came out as a description, right? And whatever word you're using, stupid, dumb, those kind of things, and they might be just off-the-cuff words that you use, but to somebody else it can be a label meaning, and that's what they believe about me, and this is an adult who thinks this of me, so that must be true, right? Because at a young age, everything that the adult says you're taking as it's true. And so then you start to believe that, right? So you hear that word, you take it on as identity, even though everyone around you can say that's not what they meant, that's not true. You still feel it and think it.
You start to own it.
You do, and then your actions are different, right? So the actions in school, feeling like I'm dumb or stupid, are going to be way different than the actions I might take if I really believe I'm smart, right? They're going to be different, and so therefore my results are going to be different. My test grades are not going to be good because I did not go into that test believing I was going to do well.
So there's a sense of cognitive dissonance here, where you adopt that thought and then you own it and then you become it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to overcome once that happens.
It is, and no matter how much somebody wants to take that word back, or somebody else wants to fix that for you, it really is something that you've got to be able to open up yourself, right, and shift that belief and realize that it is only a word that came out, right? It's not truth, right?
Yeah, but sticks and stones break your bones, right?
Yeah, so that one, that is...
But words matter.
Yeah, so we say, I love that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah.
They do hurt.
They do hurt.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, even that statement itself is a way to be defensive against it's not going to hurt. But the truth is they actually do.
So sometimes it's the intention behind the word.
Mm-hmm. Can be the intention, and sometimes the intention doesn't matter because it's the perception. And it's difficult because we are living in a world where we use so many of those in our language every day, so many of those common words, stupid, dumb, whether we're talking about someone or we're just saying this is dumb or this is stupid. It just really is there's no intention, right? We're not thinking like we want this to be a negative, horrible experience, not really consciously. But as soon as we say this is dumb, we are really saying this is a terrible experience and it's going to be horrible.
And so when you feel that way, then you tend not to push yourself or motivate yourself to move forward on anything.
Right. There's not going to be motivation to that, right? Even if I make myself do it, again, I'm forcing myself to do something, which is like doubling up on the negative feelings around how I feel and the actions that I take or don't take, right? If I think it's dumb, I might be so disenchanted that my decision on action is to take nothing.
And that could lead to a whole mess of trouble.
A whole different trouble, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody says something to you like, hey, you're stupid, do you just consider the source?
Yeah, I think consider the source, and also that it is a word and it doesn't mean it's true even if somebody else says it to you. Or says it about something, it doesn't mean that's true at all. It's really more about doing a check-in and saying, well, what do I think? What do I believe? And that can be challenging too, because I may have a question in mind. Maybe I am, right? I would say that's where there's an opportunity to shift into, okay, how can I think differently about this, right? And so for me, now going back, I would say, well, that was a common word used, right? It was my grandfather, so it was a common word used by my grandfather. And some of his was, that's how to make people tougher. So there was a whole bunch of context to where he came from and how he grew up. As an adult, I can understand how those things became a part of a pattern or habit of his life without ill intention to his grandchildren. In fact, it was probably meant it positively of building people up, right?
Well, you have to think about the times, right?
Yes,
Because
exactly.
I think that's an issue as well, because
Right.
times are different.
Right.
They're different now than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 100 years ago.
That's right.
And if you're not adjusting to those times and interpreting those times properly, you get yourself into trouble.
Right, right. And some of those times, for my grandfather at this point, they were survival. So how are you going to you're going to be strong, right? And it was the feeling of the strong survive, right? So looking at it now, it's not that I can say, oh, it was okay that happened, but it's just more of understanding where it came from. And that wasn't true for me. And even if I had doubts for me, how could I look at it differently? Well, maybe one way to look at it differently was, hey, I am struggling on this schoolwork, so how do I get help with that? Now, I don't know if I would have said that at 7, but there were different ways that I could have looked at it and then say, what do I really want? Well, what I really want is to be smart and to be good at school. So what are some things I could take to do that? Again, hard for a 7-year-old, but that would have probably been a better way for me to start thinking and actioning on it and feeling about it than trying to make myself believe that wasn't true. Trying to say that he just didn't know what he was talking about. That's not true. That was terrible. That was awful. That didn't actually help me move from it.
Yeah, so my first name is Edmund, my middle name is Alexander. So my father would call me Alexander or Xander. That was my nickname. And when he used the word Xander, I knew I could get anything I wanted. When he used the word Alexander, I knew he was happy with me. But when I heard Edmund, which was that tone in my first name, I knew I was in trouble.
Yes.
So I was perceptive enough as a kid to know that. How?
Well, it becomes a pattern and a habit in your daily life, right? The first time he said that, Edmund, you might not have thought anything about it. But after repeating, it becomes part of your story. It becomes part of your identity and different parts of you. And the different parts that probably are not just associated with the words he said, but for you as a reflection of what did I just do? So it just becomes part of our story, and then whatever story we're telling ourselves becomes, more of what we see.
So that the tone was part of that. His tone was part of that.
Yeah, and repetition, right? We learn through repetition. So the repetition of him using your name in different ways and your behavior being directly connected to how he was using your name, right, creates a stronger connection that if somebody calls you Edmund today, you probably have a little part of you that's like, what did I just do?
My first name is interesting because I never ever get Edmund. I always get Edwin, Edgar, every other name but Edmund.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a different name, so I kind of like it. But growing up, I never did, and I think it might be what you just hit on is the fact that he used it. My mother just always called me Ed, but he used it mostly when he was a little upset with me.
Right, when you had done
something. And I always
something.
probably made him upset a lot growing up.
Right, and you've probably around people that you've met as you introduce yourself or they call you things, you're not using Edmund, right? So most likely.
Actually I do more now than ever.
Oh, good.
I must have matured over all these years.
Well, he must not bother you anymore.
No. So there are two words that I hear a lot of.
Or you're doing a lot of stuff you shouldn't be doing.
That could be true too, Amanda. I never sit idle, let's put it that way. The two words that I hear all the time, love and hate. Let's start with what might be a negative thing, hate.
Yeah, hate is strong, and it is a clear decision of dislike, not wanting to be around or have that around. So when there's a repetition of hate, right, that is a sign of there's negativity there and a clear decision on it. And clear decisions are great, but hate closes off any openness to, at least it gives a sense of it because of how we see that word, right? How we put those four letters together. How we put those together, we've assigned meaning to that word hate, and then that means it's absolutely the worst, right? Not something that you want to be around, at least to most people. And you're closing off any opportunity or option that that particular thing or person has value, which they do.
Okay, so but if you look and I agree, but if you look at, let's say you're on a diet, all right, and somebody brings you this big ice cream cone, and you know they know you love ice cream, and you go, "Well, I hate you."
Well,
but then you take the ice cream cone and eat it. But
that's a little more, intended to be fun, right? The sarcasm of it. But the person receiving that could actually take that very personally and feel bad that then they put the ice cream in front of you and now you have eaten it and then they know how hard you were working on the diet. And that wasn't really their intention. But just by saying that, you could feel that. We don't really know what the other person is thinking as a result of saying that. That's kind of the interesting
so
part.
Again, it comes back to that word associated with it and the tone and then the meaning behind it.
Right. And both the meaning of intention and then perception.
Yeah. And perception is a whole nother aspect of this because you can perceive something totally different than what I perceive of the very same thing. Even the color of this chair that I'm sitting on.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do you get around something like that? Perception.
Yeah, I mean, I think also something like the color of the couch is when that happens in my house, we just agree to disagree.
So I hear a lot of people, and they use the word love. Oh, I love that car. Or, I love your chair, or love ya.
Yeah.
You love everybody. I mean, I don't know if you can love everybody, but it's thrown out there like good morning.
Right. And love is a powerful word, the way we associate it and the frequencies. If you go through the frequency of feelings, love is at the top, and you might love everyone. You might actually be really open to enjoying everyone. Now, when we see somebody like that, we're not always sure that that's authentic, but it could really be authentic for them. They could see what is special in every person they meet. So they could be very authentic on that.
Gee, that's a whole nother topic, and I know you talk about it, but how do you pick out the best in people and kind of layer the worst and leave it alone?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things, and tried to teach my kids this, was find one thing that you like about the person. Just one thing. It can be anything. It could be their hair, right? Like, it could be anything. One thing that you like that you can attach on, and then one thing you can learn from them. Even if what you choose to learn is, I don't ever want to do or say or be like that person, it's okay. You still learn something from them, and you found something to connect. There's a connection in finding something that I like about that person. We all have special things about us, so there's always something inside of us that is likable. So when you are struggling with somebody, first thing is to connect with, what do I like about them? There's got to be something. And when I find that, what can I learn from them? Because we can all learn from each other.
Give us some examples.
So I work with a lot of people in the corporate world, right? So you might find people that you're having difficulty connecting with, or I might get a boss that, wasn't expecting to get that boss, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get along with that boss. So, a boss, a coach, a teacher, any of those things. I was going to say son-in-law, but my daughter would probably say, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I'm getting married in a few months." It's not true. I really do like my Son-in-law to be. So, but if you're struggling in any way, it's kind of like, well, where's the connection for me, and what is one thing I could like about them? So, you know, if it's a boss, what are those experiences? If it's a teacher, they've got to do something. You got to see them do something in the classroom that well, I like that. Anything, and then connect to that and say, okay, what can I learn here? Because I think we all come together at different points so that we can learn from each other.
Crazy is another big one. You hear that word thrown out all the time. What does crazy mean?
Yeah, and I think crazy is one that can mean a lot of things. It can mean crazy fun. It can mean crazy. It can that can be a little bit of a trigger word for people as well, depending on what their experiences have been with the word.
And so, what's a trigger word?
A trigger word is something that you're associating emotion or a memory to. And so what that word means to you would be different for everyone else. And it could be very upsetting. It also could be a positive trigger word. But often we're associating it to more of a negative memory that brings it up for us.
So somebody says a word that at some point in time in your life either made you very happy or made you very sad or made you very angry
or worried
or something, and then you hear that word and then you go right back to that original emotion.
Right.
How do you overcome that?
So that is also very challenging, right? Because we can never completely, well, I shouldn't say that because now I'm limiting belief. You can never completely detach from that. Do you see that? So, I think it's a way to detach that was the past, and that's not what's happening right now. What's happening right now is something different. Well, often we see that in relationships, right? Love relationships where you see those come up a lot.
Because I think you make those associations with words. You can make them with colors. You can make them with sounds. You can make them with smells. I mean, this is a powerful instrument that's in here for most people.
It is. It is.
And those things, memories, and memories are emotions, correct? Mm-hmm. Can be triggered by all of that. I think that words can really be even more impactful because we have a communication with that.
Right.
And there's a generalization with words. And I think it can
It's in our connection with each other.
Yeah.
Right? It's connection.
Exactly.
It's a communication connection. That's what makes it different.
Because I used to have the habit over the years, every time I got a new car, I went out and bought a new CD or tape or whatever was the going thing. And that music I would associate with that car. So, 20 years later, I don't have that car. The music comes on the radio, or
you're back in the car.
I'm back in that car. You know what I mean? Or you remember your mom cooking liver and grossing you out, and then you smell something that smells like liver, and you're like, oh my,
Yes.
It's amazing, but those smells and that music, that's all personal to you. It doesn't generally necessarily have that impact of it being universal to everybody,
right.
And words do.
Right.
And that's what you talk about in the book.
Yes.
So what are some of the other things that we should be paying attention to with words matter?
Yeah, I think the stories we tell ourselves are important. So notice, the first thing is really noticing. So noticing if I have any habits or patterns. And there is a list. So as I mentioned in the beginning, my clients wanted a list. So if you go to wordsmatter.com, there's a list out there that gives you different, what are stress words, what are empowering words.
Give us an example of a stress word and an empowering word.
Yeah, so I think I make something, I'm going to make it versus create. So making something happen versus, I'd like to see that happen, or I'm going to create that is two different things. Make is a force, like I have to do it, like I don't have a choice. And so for us emotionally, when we take away our choice and we say you have to do something, you have to clean your room is another force word, is very different than you have a choice to clean your room or be able to go out and play football for 15 minutes, right? So the choice empowers us to be able to be empowered and be confident in what we're doing in our choices.
And that's a powerful word, empower. That's actually one of the words I use in the opening of my radio show. You know, we don't diagnose or treat, but we empower you.
Right.
And that word empowerment is important because it puts you in charge, right?
That's right. Right. So whether we're saying it to ourselves, I have to, so I'll give an example. I have to go visit my friend and we're going to have lunch together. Okay.
Which kind of implies or infers I'm not really wanting to do that, right?
That's right. And I'm saying that out loud, and I'm probably saying it to somebody else, but I'm also saying it to myself.
Yeah.
And that is how it's creating a feeling of, I got to go do this. Versus I'm choosing to go see my friend and have lunch with them today. Or today I'm doing this.
So really what you're saying right now is by using the word I choose to do, that's empowering you.
Yes.
By I have to go do it, it's empowering them.
Oh, well, yeah, that's interesting. Because they have the power over me because I'm going there because I feel some obligation.
So I tried to explain that to my friend who probably won't watch this TV show, but
just this section.
But can't stand his brother-in-law, so anytime there's a family function, he won't go. Well, I try to explain to him that he's put his brother-in-law over him. He made his brother-in-law in charge of him. Right? Am I right?
Yes, because I'll say yes and then. Yes, because he may want to be there, right? He may have a desire to be there, but allowing that to block, right? So we would go back to find something you like about your brother-in-law and something you can learn and you'll be okay being in the same room would be good advice to try. Small, it can be small learning, small like. But yeah, he's given that power over because now he's not enjoying the family because the brother-in-law
he's letting the brother-in-law deny him from coming, even though the brother-in-law not doing that.
And has maybe no idea.
Well, I'm sure he does, but he's really put his brother-in-law in charge of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And impacting the others around, right?
Sure. Yeah. And that impact, that's a big trigger word, huh?
Right. Yeah. And before we go to impact, I want to say that sometimes we say, I'm not going because of my brother-in-law, right? And I'm just using an example, not specific to your brother-in-law, but we say that because we don't want to say, I choose not to go, which is also empowering, right? I choose not to go is okay, and that's empowering to do, but that also means you're telling everyone else around you, I'm choosing not to go. I'm not blaming, I'm just
Yeah, we
choosing.
like to blame other people for...
So it can be, you know, it's kind of uncovering and saying, okay, well, you are choosing, but in fact, you're choosing not to go. Is that really what you want to choose? Or how can you look at that differently? Because if you would really like to go, you are empowered to choose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So if we want to become a client of yours, how do we go about doing that?
Yes, so there's lots of information on the website. We have lots of on timefortransformationllc.com. We do have, there's some free items to try out there to see if you like that, and also a strategy session. You're invited to do that.
So, are these in person, over the telephone? How are they?
All above. So we do them on Zoom. We can do them on the phone. We can do them. I do like to do face-to-face, whether that's Zoom or in person. And so that's a great way to start working together. And then we understand where you're at, where you'd like to be, if we're fit working together, and what the best model would be.
And then how long are these sessions?
Yeah, so a strategy session is about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Sometimes 60 if we, need the extra time, we'll do that.
And then where do we get Words Matter?
And Words Matter is on Amazon.
Amazon. Mm-hmm. All right. We're actually at the end of the show.
So we can't talk about impact today.
We can't talk about impact, but we're going to have you back, and we'll talk about some of these other issues over here that impact our lives. So, Amanda Yetter and her book, Words Matter Today, and I'll tell you they matter every day. Yeah, so pick this book up. It's a very easy read and a very interesting read. And I think you get to learn a little bit about Amanda in this book as well. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. Appreciate it for you coming on Dr. Ed Show. Remember, a healthy pet is a happy pet. When you're healthy, you're happy as well. Also, you can listen to me live every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AM 1250, The Answer. God bless. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.